My name is Peter DuPont. I'm a co-founder and co-CEO of a company called Asia Clean Energy Partners, and I also serve as the regional coordinator for the Private Financing Advisory Network. Over the REAP UNIDO hosting period, this is the second phase of PFAN. And just to go back in time, I was involved in 2009 when I was running a USAID project based in Bangkok. And we initiated PFAN in Asia back in 2009 as a program under USAID. And then by 2017, after the PFAN had developed for a period of about 7 or 8 years in Asia, we became a unified global program under UNIDO and operated by REAP. And there's been a lot of growth in the region matched by the growth in PFAN. PFAN now boasts about 250 coaches in the regions it serves around the world. In the region where I'm focusing on now, Southeast Asia, we have more than 25 advisors across 7 countries. And what we've really seen is a dramatic increase in the quality of the projects that are applying for assistance from PFAN. So even though there is a need for the project developers to really get the financial aspects and the investment ask right, the quality that we're reaching and the level of commercial readiness has increased a lot just in the past 5 or 6 years under the REAP UNIDO period. The one word or phrase that I would use to describe PFAN during the UNIDO REAP hosting period is really connecting projects with good coaching, is making that connection between the project and the coach who has the expertise. Because if you're not able to do that, then you're never going to be able to take it to the next step and actually make an effective pitch for the investment. The reason I picked that is the very simple secret sauce that PFAN has, is that focus on the connection between the project and the market expert who is the PFAN advisor or coach. Well, for sure, the biggest challenge that we faced during implementation under UNIDO and REAP for the past 5 or 6 years has been COVID. So initially, this meant that we were not able to get out and do roadshows and meet people. And then we saw, even though we were able to continue to get applications and continue to do coaching, we saw a drop in effectiveness of that coaching and a reduction in the number of deals. It's true that there was also a fall in investment about halfway through toward the end of the COVID pandemic period. But also one of the reasons that we had, one of the challenges that we had was the inability to have our boot camp, which is a regular event that we have once or twice a year where we bring the new crop of projects together with their advisors. And so the inability to do that really hampered us. And so we gradually got over it by developing a more enhanced web-based approach and including something called a cohort meeting. So we would bring on new projects at the same time. We would bring them together in a series of meetings. Initial stage, we bring them together. The second stage, after we'd presented them with some online materials and discuss those materials, and then we bring them together to do practice pitching. So we eventually evolved to do that, but it took a couple of years and it really slowed us down, to be frank. One of the big trends in the clean energy field over the past say 5 or 6 years has been the shift away from plain vanilla solar and wind projects where there's a single off-taker and a long-term PPA contract to a more diverse type of arrangements for investment and for selling of goods and products. So we've also realized that those plain vanilla projects in any event weren't the area where PFAN had strength. So we've focused more on sort of smaller scale projects that are working, for example, in biofuels, biogas, biomass. And with the increase in the focus on adaptation and climate resilience, which was a new policy that PFAN introduced during the UNIDO REAP period, we focused a lot on products that have adaptation and resilience benefits. And that increased probably by a factor of 4 the areas of business where we could provide our coaching. So we've done a number of projects related to resilience, climate resilience in the water sector, water treatment, water delivery, efficient use of water, a lot in the area of agriculture, sustainable agricultural practices, solar pumping and things like that. And so we've had, and another interesting trend, which has really popped up in the last 2 or 3 years, is a lot of companies developing alternative protein from by growing bugs or things like black soldier fly, and then turning those insects into protein and selling that as powder or in one form or another for protein supplements. So PFAN has played a small, but I would argue pretty important role in the Asia region broadly, and in Southeast Asia, where I'm focusing my efforts, by really having a clear and consistent business model, which is predicated on the fact that there are a lot of small-scale companies that need targeted coaching and mentoring. And so by having that sort of systematic pipeline development and a process for doing that, and a workflow, and the ability to deploy donor funds and technical assistance funds in a very nimble and quick manner, but with accountability, which the donors want, we've really been able to triple our pipeline overall globally, and we've done at least that much in the Asia region. And we've done that by being more efficient and improving, bringing in better quality coaches, and just getting better at what we do over time. PFAN is a relatively small player in the market, but because we focus on the small and medium projects, often that are startup or in the early commercial phase, we often find that we can make a difference in some areas where the projects have yet to get traction. So one bright spot over the past 7 or 8 years has been the work that we have done initially in India, and then in Southeast Asia, with a big focus on Vietnam, on electric mobility. We've looked at a lot of different projects in this area, and some of the most interesting and effective ones have been focused on two-wheeler EVs and three-wheeler EVs. But in particular, there have been a couple of electric two-wheeler projects in Vietnam that have been successful. And I believe one of the projects that we worked with in India about 10 years ago is now Ather Energy has done their 4th capital raise over the period of the last 10 years. So that's been very successful. And I expect that to continue to be successful because the markets are not nearly saturated in most of the countries that we're working in Southeast Asia. In terms of adaptation and resilience, one of the most interesting projects we've looked at over the past few years has been a company called Husk. So Husk is a company that's has developed a pretty extensive business in Cambodia that involves taking rice husks and turning them into biochar, and then using that biochar for fertilizer, which obviously fertilizes the soil and helps the plant growth, but also just makes the soil healthier and more resilient overall. And so that's just one example of a project that we think is quite significant, especially because the group is, the management team is quite professional, and we believe this can be scaled up in a very interesting manner. The current investment ask is for $16 million, $10 million of equity and $6 million of debt. And so we've been helping them, supporting their growth over the past year and a half or so through our Cambodia operation. So the role of our advisors in the region is really quite important. It's fundamental to the whole enterprise, and the way the strength of the PFAN network. So we have a network of part-time advisors who are active in the markets, providing their expertise through consulting or business advisory work. And our ability to identify and deploy these advisors in a very nimble and time efficient manner is what really makes the PFAN network successful, and is really part of the strength of the network, because the fundamental problem we have in this region, in Southeast Asia, and actually in many other regions, a lot of money being put aside for ESG investments, clean energy investments, net zero investments, energy transition investments, whatever you want to call it, and a real lack of high quality commercial project pipeline. So it's the ability to have these advisors who are experts in the market, and to be able to deploy them and get them working with project developers, and then get those project developers ready to pitch to investors. That has had, I think, some role, at least, in moving forward financing at the small end of the spectrum, in the investment sizes ranging, say, under $50 million. From a global perspective, I would say that the key achievement of PFAN during the REAP UNIDO period has been to triple the development of its pipeline and its investment closing. So a tripling in both the number of projects that we've coached and have achieved financial closure, and a tripling approximately in the amount of investment that we are helping to close each year. Now, within Southeast Asia, what I've seen as the coordinator of the region is we've been able to add a couple of countries, including Myanmar. We've been able to develop 7 robust country operations with at least several coaches with very strong experience in each of those countries. And we've also been able, because of more resources compared to the previous period, have more and regular interaction and more between the countries. So some peer learning between the countries and the projects that are working in those countries. And I referred earlier to the fact that we have these cohorts that we are developing. We use an approach where we bring them together in different modules of learning. So being able to do that in Southeast Asia with the advisors in Southeast Asia and the projects that are developing in parallel in Southeast Asia has been a real benefit. One of the best practices that PFAN has is its boot camps. We don't actually use that name. We call them project development workshops. But essentially, what we do is we bring the projects, once they're selected, together to a 3-day meeting to be in the same room with their coaches, to practice their pitches, to learn from each other. And that is really one of the most interesting things for me as a sort of leader of this effort in the region, and someone who's just interested in how projects can sort of get to the next level and how you can effectively deploy advisors to help them. So that boot camp approach is really one of PFAN's secrets, one of the key elements in and secret sauce in PFAN's recipe. In terms of recommendations based on our experience for the market in the region and for policymakers, I'd say it would really be beneficial to put a lot more technical assistance into the development of project pipelines. So what does that mean? Well, that would mean, for example, identifying early stage projects and having a more systematic approach to helping them hone their business plans, their financial models, and then to get ready to make their pitch to investors. So that's what we do, but we are doing this. We are just one organization doing this. There are a number of organizations that are working in this area, but it's a perennial problem that the funds with 50, 100, $150 million that are targeted at these sorts of small and medium scale clean energy and climate adaptation projects are just not able to easily find pipelines of projects that are commercially ready. So this effort to sort of scale up the TA could involve support for existing incubators and accelerators. It could involve maybe alliances with business schools, so some of the business students could be used to sort of support these efforts. But there's not nearly enough being done to generate quality pipeline. One of the main things that's happened over the 7 years of the UNIDO reposting period is that the energy transition has really taken off. So the amount of investment, the amount of lending, the amount of donor funding for projects related to the energy transition and net zero has dramatically increased. The impact on us in PFAN is that we have a much larger pool of projects that are coming to us that we can look at and bring in for coaching. It also has led to a real diversity of projects. And we have a lot of projects that are looking at new ways of say, making agriculture more resilient, of conserving water, of using e-mobility, of doing things like grid-to-vehicle charging. All these sorts of new technologies and business models are proliferating. And that makes our job easier in a way because we have more projects in the pool, but it also makes it harder because we have to be able to handle and provide effective advisory for a broader range of projects, and many of them trying new untested business models and make those attractive to investors.